Before the rain ever fell, before a single drop touched the dust of the earth, something far more terrifying was already happening. The world was dying from the inside. Humanity was not destroyed by water first, but by corruption of the heart, by violence without restraint, by a silence where the voice of God had once been heard clearly. This is not a children's story about animals and a wooden boat. This is the account of a world that reached the limits of divine patience, and of one man who walked with God when almost no one else did. As you listen, allow this story to confront you, not only as history, but as a mirror. And if you feel that pull inside your spirit, stay with us, subscribe to the channel, and walk this journey of Scripture deeply and reverently, because the story of Noah is far more relevant today than most people dare to admit. Genesis chapter 5 opens not with action, but with memory. It is a genealogy, a long list of names, years, generations passing one to another. To many readers, this feels like dry information, but in reality, it is a declaration. Humanity was never accidental. Every name carries weight. Adam, Seth, Enoch, Kenan, Mahalalel, Jared, Enoch, Methuselah, Lamech. These are not just ancestors. They are witnesses to a world closer to creation than anything we know. They lived long lives, not because they were gods, but because the earth itself had not yet decayed under sin the way it would later. Time moved differently then. Life endured longer. And among all these names, one stands apart, like a flame in the darkness. Enoch. Enoch did not merely live. Scripture says he walked with God, not visited God, not obeyed God occasionally. He walked with him. That phrase implies intimacy, alignment, communion. And then, without death, Enoch was taken. The text offers no spectacle, no explanation, no farewell. He simply was not, because God took him. This moment stands as a quiet but thunderous reminder. Even in a corrupted world, righteousness was possible. Relationship was possible. God had not abandoned humanity. Humanity was abandoning God. And this tension would only grow stronger with every generation that followed. Methuselah, the longest living man recorded in Scripture, becomes a symbol of God's patience. His lifespan stretches almost impossibly long, as if heaven itself were delaying judgment, giving humanity every possible chance to turn back. His very name, according to ancient understanding, suggests that when he died, judgment would come. And when Methuselah dies, the flood begins, not as coincidence, but as consequence. God is slow to anger, rich in mercy, but he is not indifferent to evil. By the time we reach Genesis chapter 6, the tone of Scripture changes dramatically. The earth is described not as broken, but as corrupted. Violence filled the land. Every intention of the thoughts of the human heart was only evil continually. This is one of the most devastating assessments of humanity ever written. It does not say some were evil. It does not say many were evil. It says the imagination itself, the inner world of humanity, had become twisted beyond repair. This was not ignorance. This was rebellion. And then comes one of the most sobering verses in the entire Bible. The Lord regretted that he had made man on the earth, and it grieved him to his heart. This is not weakness. This is divine sorrow. God is not portrayed as a distant force, but as a father mourning what his children have become. Judgment is never God's first desire. It is his last resort when love has been fully rejected. But even in that darkness, the text delivers a sentence that changes everything. But Noah found favor in the eyes of the Lord. One man, one life, one heart, aligned with heaven. Noah is described as righteous, blameless in his generation, and as one who walked with God. Notice the wording, in his generation. Noah was not righteous because the world was good. He was righteous because he chose faithfulness when it was costly, isolating, and misunderstood. God speaks to Noah, not with rage, but with clarity. He reveals the truth of what the world has become and what must be done. The flood is not framed as revenge, but as purification. The earth had been filled with violence, and violence would be washed away. God gives Noah instructions with precise detail, dimensions, materials, structure. Faith is not vague. Obedience is practical. And Noah does not argue. He does not negotiate. He does not ask for signs. Scripture says simply, Noah did everything exactly as God commanded him. Imagine the years that followed. Decades of building. Decades of obedience without any evidence. No rain fell. No storms came. Only the sound of wood being shaped into obedience filled the air. People mocked him, laughed at him, called him insane. But faith is not measured by public approval. Faith is measured by silent obedience. And if this story is speaking to you now, if you feel the call to stand firm in a confused and chaotic world, pause for a moment, subscribe to the channel, and continue walking with us. Scripture was never meant to be rushed, and its lessons require patient reflection and attentive hearts. As the ark nears completion, something extraordinary unfolds. God brings the animals to Noah, not Noah chasing them, not chaos, but perfect order. Creation itself responds to its creator. Pairs enter the ark, male and female, preserving the continuation of life. Clean animals in greater numbers, anticipating sacrifice and worship after the flood. Every detail matters. God is not merely saving biological life. He is preserving covenant, worship, and the potential for future relationship with humanity. Then comes one of the most chilling moments in all of Scripture. And the Lord shut him in. God himself closes the door of the ark. Salvation is offered, but a moment comes when the door closes. Not because God delights in exclusion, but because justice must finally speak. The rain begins. The fountains of the deep burst open. The heavens pour down. Water rises from below and above, undoing creation itself, returning the world to chaos, to the state before the light separated land from sea. For 40 days and 40 nights, the rain falls. Mountains vanish. Cities are swallowed. Violence is silenced. The flood does not discriminate between the powerful and the weak. All flesh outside the ark perishes. This is difficult to hear. It should be. Scripture does not soften judgment because it intends for us to understand the profound seriousness of sin. But judgment is not the end of the story. Inside the ark, there is darkness, movement, uncertainty. Noah and his family endure, not celebrate. Faith does not remove fear. It anchors us through it. The ark floats, not because of its own strength, but because of God's faithful hand. After months of waters covering the earth, Scripture delivers another turning point. But God remembered Noah. Not that he had forgotten, but that he now acts in mercy. A wind passes over the earth. The waters begin to recede. The ark rests on the mountains of Ararat. Not immediate salvation, only the promise of it. Noah waits. He sends out a raven, then a dove. The first returns, finding no resting place. The second brings back an olive leaf. Life survives. Hope returns. The third does not return at all. The earth is finally ready. When Noah leaves the ark, the first act is to build an altar. Before building cities, before planting vineyards, Before organizing life, he worships. The new world begins with gratitude. God responds not with anger, but with covenant. He promises never again to destroy the earth by flood and places a rainbow in the sky, not mere decoration, but a visible testimony that mercy has triumphed over judgment. Genesis chapters 9 and 10 introduce a new phase of humanity. God blesses Noah and his sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, commanding them to be fruitful and multiply. Humanity restarts, not perfect, but with promise. Scripture is honest. Noah, the righteous man, becomes drunk, showing human vulnerability. Sin is not erased by the flood. It is restrained, but remains. Salvation resets direction, not human nature. The incident with Ham and the curse of Canaan has been misunderstood throughout history. Scripture does not justify oppression or favoritism. It reveals consequences. From Noah's sons come the nations, languages, and civilizations of the earth. Genesis 10 is not a list, but a map of humanity's rebirth. From Genesis 5 through 10, we learn that God judges sin, preserves life, seeks righteousness, establishes covenant, and chooses relationship even after total collapse. The flood was both warning and mercy combined. If this story feels heavy, it should. If it feels familiar, it should. The days of Noah, as Jesus explained, resemble the time before his return. A world busy, distracted, violent, ignoring warnings. Yet righteousness is possible. Favor can still be found. Obedience still matters. The ark was not about escaping the world. It preserved life within it. Today, faith still calls us to build, not boats, but lives of obedience in a world that mocks holiness. Scripture continues, and so does God's work in the world.